The UCLA women's basketball season is one you don't want to miss. Your top 10 Bruins are well on their way to another Final Four run. We need you to get to Pauley to support this incredible team. Led by Lauren Betts, Gabriella Jaquez, and Kiki Rice, newcomers Gianna Neepkins and Charlize Ledger-Walker. This group plays an exciting brand of basketball and wins. The time is now to come to see these stars in action. Big-time matchups are coming. Go to UCLABruins.com/tickets to secure your seats today. Can't wait to see you in Westwood cheering on the Bruins.
Good afternoon. Getting right down to business here. We're doing it live, doing more at 4 weekday afternoons, right after Guy Benson, and just before Randy Wang at 5. Motec on Money, live on the air, 790 KBC, streaming live online worldwide at KBC.com. And the on-demand Motec on Money podcast on all the podcast platforms. We'll have the latest on Wall Street coming up later this hour. But first, a tough and painful anniversary being observed in the Los Angeles area today. It's the one-year anniversary of the devastating wind and firestorm which destroyed homes and businesses in the Pacific Palisades, Malibu, and Altadena. It's a day of remembrance, a year after the firestorm caused at least 31 deaths, destroying thousands of homes and businesses. About 17,000 structures were lost, and the area burned in the Palisades and Malibu is larger than the area of Manhattan. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass was on a trip to Ghana when the windstorm and firestorm erupted, and a critical reservoir was offline when the fire started. The fire chief was later fired by the mayor, and the after-action report released recently is drawing scrutiny. A year later, there's pain and frustration with the ongoing recovery, which has been painfully slow, an uneven process, and most properties still in ruins. We'll have extended coverage this hour with Jerry Sullivan, managing editor of The Real Deal commercial real estate news source, and Mark Wilbur will be joining me live as well, chairman of Employers Group, founding member and former chairman of the Los Angeles Business Federation, LA BizFed, and former associate dean of the USC Marshall School of Business. And joining us live now, Los Angeles business and civic leader Rick Caruso, whose Palisades Village development in the Palisades and his family were directly impacted by the horrific firestorm exactly 1 year ago. Now, since then, he's led the Steadfast LA effort, spearheading a coordinated recovery effort in the Palisades and Altadena, bringing hope to those communities. Rick Caruso, thank you very much for taking the call live with us here this afternoon.
Frank, it's good to be with you today. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much. Give us your thoughts on what happened a year ago today.
Well, so much has come out now about this fire, and we talked about it early on, Frank, and there were a number of us that were very convinced that this fire could have been completely prevented. We know now that it could have been. It makes today and the memory of everything that happened that much more tragic and difficult to accept. People died, as you mentioned in your opening, and we can never forget that. So many people lost their homes, 7,000 homes in the Palisades, and tens of thousands of jobs were lost. And so it's a very sad day, but I would also say, and being out in the Palisades earlier today with my family, there's an incredible amount of hope out there, and I'm very hopeful. In spite of the shortcomings of the city in helping to get this community rebuilt, because there's a spirit and a determination of the people in the Palisades that they will come back. And as I said in my post on the Instagram, it's not about the politicians, it's about the people. And the people of the Palisades, and I believe it true for the people in Altadena and Malibu, in spite of the failures of government, when government failed, there's a bunch of us that stood up to help and lean in and help people. And together we're going to get these communities rebuilt.
On the air live with Rick Caruso, right after it happened, in fact, that night, which was your birthday, right? It's your birthday today, January 7th.
Yes.
You were gathering for a birthday gathering, and this happened, and you were back on the air that night and blasted what was happening with that reservoir there and the leadership. Take us back to that night.
Well, we were all evacuated. The fire started. We were going to get together and go out to dinner for my birthday. The family was together. We decided to stay in our home in Brentwood instead of going out to dinner. And during dinner, then the Brentwood area was called for evacuation, and actually the power went out. And my wife said, "That's it. We need to go." And so we all evacuated as a family. And as we were together later that afternoon, I think it was probably about 9:30 or so at night, 10 o'clock, I was watching the news. Alex Michelson was on, and I got a call from my team, one of our senior executives that was out embedded in the command post, to let me know that my daughter's home was on fire. And the reason is because the fire hydrants had stopped, the hoses had run dry. And I said, Banyan, that's just an impossibility. And he said, no, I'm telling you, we're standing out here. The firefighters are just in absolute distress because there's no water coming out. And so it was a very difficult time, obviously, sharing that with my daughter, losing her house. And then it was later that evening that we got word that my son's house was highly damaged and basically unlivable, lost his house. So I just couldn't believe, Frank, and I don't think anybody can as we look back on it, that in this city that should be so prepared, that there was such a lack of preparedness, that the fire department was not prepared, that we had a reservoir that was empty, that we had an original fire that, had it been handled properly, and on top of it there would have been a pre-deployment, this fire would have never happened. And people would have never lost their lives. People would have never lost their homes. So that night was tragic. Looking back on it, knowing what we know today, makes it even more tragic. And then on top of it, that, now that we know we have a cover-up of facts, that this after-action report, by the admission of the fire chief, facts were deleted and taken out, that it was seen by the mayor's office and most arguably the mayor, and allowed pertinent, relevant material information about the cause of the fire and the actions of the fire department to be removed, to, I think, in the words of the fire chief, so that it was less impactful or negative on the leadership, is, to me, just the height of corruption. And people need to be held accountable for all of these things, because the people in the Palisades are really suffering with the damages and the losses that they've taken, and it's just not right.
Absolutely heartbreaking. On the air live with Rick Caruso, and following the fires, the fire chief was fired by the mayor. The LAPD, the LADWP chief is still in place. And what are your thoughts on that, and the leadership currently in place in the aftermath of all this?
They're incompetent. I mean, the fact that you've allowed the head of the Department of Water and Power, which I've been saying for almost a year now, to remain in office after you have a reservoir that was completely empty. That was the main source of water for these hydrants. And she, along with all of us, knew these winds were coming in, is just incredible to me. Also, now that we know that the fire department knew that the original fire on the 1st was still hot, and the firefighters wanted to stay out there and were ordered away from it. I mean, knowing that you have catastrophic winds coming out, you would hope, but it didn't happen, you would demand and expect that the mayor is sitting down with her fire chief, her head of Department of Water and Power, her police chief, all department heads, saying, walk me through the plans you have. Have you all shared information? Are we all coordinated how we're going to respond to these winds? Has the original fire been put out? If it hasn't been put out, why aren't we going up there right now and making sure it's out? Or why are we pre-deploying so we have a truck right there if it reignites? This is just basic stuff, Frank. Just so basic. It's not complicated. It's not a high level of management. It's very basic management that the mayor and the fire chief, the head of Department of Water and Power, they all failed. And right now, nobody's being held accountable. People need to be held accountable for their actions. It's not being vindictive. It's just the right way to manage an organization. Reward people who do a great job and hold people accountable who fail at it. And learn from our lessons, Frank. That's why that after-action report was so critical. So we learn from our lessons, make changes so it can never happen again. And by deleting material information in that, opens up the real possibility that this could happen again.
On the air live with Rick Caruso, and it is to be noted, reminded that Mayor Bass was in Ghana when all this was happening, when there were warnings that the wind would be severe and indeed close to hurricane force.
Right. And I think, there's nothing more basic for a leader than to be present. And the fact that she made a conscious decision, knowing that the winds were coming in, to go out of the country on a diplomatic mission that was not important or necessary, versus staying back and overseeing and make sure that the people of the city of Los Angeles were safe and protected, is a real problem and a real failure of management.
The heartbreak continues. You toured that area today, and what are you hearing from the people there? What we're hearing is extreme frustration with the pace of the recovery. You're leading probably the most meaningful recovery effort, Steadfast LA. Tell us about that effort and what needs to be done to accelerate this recovery now.
Well, again, we need to remove every ounce of friction in permitting and processing building permits, permits to reopen up your office, to get your job back, all of this kind of stuff, and just make it as easy as possible for people. Everybody, that lost their home, lost their business, wasn't their fault. We know now it was the city's fault. They need to have plan checkers located out in the Palisades. They need to have building inspectors fully located in the Palisades, because what's not being talked about, and I'm certainly talking about it, is the economic impact of the whole city is going to be huge, because you have 7,000 homes off the tax roll. You've got all these businesses not operating that would otherwise be paying taxes. And so you're going to see a huge impact in the city's budget, which is going to reduce city services, their ability to provide city services citywide. So it's going to hurt people in East LA, South LA, the Valley, everywhere. We already have a terrible budget problem in the city. The city was $1 billion over budget, and they already cut back city services. They already raised rates for other services. It's just going to get exasperated. So you need to have urgency in getting these homes rebuilt and businesses rebuilt. Now, at Steadfast, we're doing a lot of great work. My team is exceptional. We've got modular homes coming in Altadena, in the Palisades, and in Altadena, they're starting to be delivered the middle of this month. We're going to get people back in a home in their community at no cost. We developed the AI model and gave it to the county and the city so that plan checking can happen in 2 hours versus 2 months. It saves a lot of money and a lot of time for homeowners. We got the park being redesigned. We'll start reconstruction of Pali Park so that families can start using it again. We've been working with LA Unified School District and helping them reopen the schools, which are reopening, which is great. And we got business grants. We've given out over $1 million of business grants for businesses in Altadena, Malibu, and Palisades to help them reopen and stay open and recreate jobs. And so I'm proud of our team, of what we're doing, but we're going to stay here for the long haul. We're not going anywhere. We're going to be shoulder to shoulder with these communities and help them any way we can to get rebuilt.
What's happening at Palisades Village and the surrounding area there?
Construction is going on. We're very busy out there in rebuilding all the interiors. We took everything out of the interiors, all the drywall, treated all the studs and the wood, had environmental engineers certify it as clean, and now we're in the process of rebuilding. And so the apartments are getting rebuilt now that they're completely clean, the stores, the restaurants, and we'll be back open in August and up and running and welcoming people back to the village. Now tonight, we got a very, very wonderful ceremony happening tonight at 6:30 at Palisades Village. We're going to be turning on 3 beams. One beam represents Palisades, one represents the communities impacted by the Eden Fire, and one represents Malibu. And those beams will merge into one beam, signifying that we're all coming together as one in this community as we rebuild. And in my mind, they also represent one beam representing the past, take time to think about what was lost. One, the gratitude for what we still have. And the third and most important, the hope of the future, that we have a great 26 as we're rebuilding these communities. And that's open to the public tonight. open to the public at 6:30.
At Palisades Village there on Sunset Boulevard?
Yes, it will be on the backside on Monument, and there'll be a very short ceremony, maybe 10-minute ceremony at 6:30, and then the lights will go on. And the significance also of these lights going on January 7th is they will stay on until January 31st. Many of us forget. That's how long the fire lasted. Can you believe that, Frank?
Yeah. It was unthinkable, horror, tragic situation there, and it wasn't until days later that the helicopters and air resources were able to be deployed. It was just a horrific situation. Nothing more horrific than a windswept firestorm like that. A hurricane instead of water, a fire in the mix. Absolutely horrific. And God bless all the firefighters who I know you've honored for their heroic work.
Yeah, absolutely. No, listen, the men and women of the fire department are just spectacular. And what's happening in the fire department now, it's not about the men and women that are serving and rushing to our aid. It's the leadership that has really failed them.
Speaking of leadership, people are turning to you for leadership. Have you made a decision whether you're going to be running for governor or for mayor of the city of Angels?
I'm going to be announcing that in a couple weeks, Frank. So yes, I have come to a point where I'm going to be able to announce it in a couple weeks.
Thank you for sharing that and for taking the call. Rick Caruso, God bless you and all of your efforts in rebuilding the city, and we want to wish you a happy birthday here on this January 7th as we remember what happened a year ago on this date. Thank you very, very much for joining us live, and we'll keep an open line to you on any big announcements.
Thank you, Frank. Thanks for having me, and God bless everybody who is impacted by these fires, and especially think about all of the innocent lives that were lost a year ago.
Rick Caruso, again, thank you very much for joining us live here on 790 KABC.
Thank you, Frank. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Shopify is the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret, with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts go abandoned and way more sales going through. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout that Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period for 3 months at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
Most people don't realize how much of their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it together at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/secure. Protect yourself now at aura.com/secure.
The UCLA men's basketball season's in full swing, and we need you to get to Pauley Pavilion to support the Bruins. Don't miss a single chance to see this year's exciting team, led by Donovan Dent, Eric Daly Jr., Sky Clark, and Tyler Bilodeau. Pauley Pavilion, presented by Westcon Financials, the home of the greatest tradition in all of college basketball. We can't wait to have you join us as the Bruins continue to build on that legacy. With big-time matchups, go to UCLABruins.com/tickets to secure your seats today before it's too late. Let's get Pauley rocking.
Motac on Money continues, 790 KABC. The Dow and S&P 500 pulling back from record highs. The Dow down 466 points today at 48,000. 996 back below 49K, which it cleared for the first time at the close yesterday. The S&P 500 down 24 off its all-time high at 6,921. The Nasdaq, though, positive of 37 points at the bell at 23,584. The yield in the 10-year note now at 4.16%. The volatility index spiking today up 4%. Gold and silver continue to be in the spotlight at or near record highs. Gold right now at 4,470 an ounce, was above 4,500 yesterday. Silver back below 80 at 78.53 an ounce. Platinum continues on a roll here, above 2,300 now, 23.06 and change, up 38 and change. Palladium also in the plus column, up nearly $40 at 1,824 an ounce. Checking the cryptos now, we see a Bitcoin hovering above 91,000 now, off its high of the week, up about 400 now at 91,300 or so. Ethereum at 3,170, and Doge at the moment at 15 cents. The Dow pulling back today from record highs. Investors taking in uncertainty about the outlook for interest rates. The tech names leading the charge in the Nasdaq today, tied to artificial intelligence, standing out with Intel moving higher by about 6.5%. After an autonomous driving company it partially owns called Mobileye announced plans to acquire AI robotics startup Menti Robotics in a deal valued at $900 million. Oil, of course, in focus, given what's going on with Venezuela. The price of oil right now just above $56 a barrel. Brent crude moving lower, back below $60 a barrel. President Trump says Venezuela will provide the U.S. with up to 50 million barrels of crude oil, and the president intends to meet with U.S. energy executives, oil company executives, on Friday to discuss investing once again in Venezuela. Another big story, home builder and financial stocks taking a hit today following the president's posting on social media that he would take steps to ban large institutional investors from buying single-family homes in an effort to improve housing affordability. Shares of rental home operator Invitation Homes, for example, dropped 6%, while Blackstone stock finished 5.6% lower. Blackstone involved in the corporate buying of homes nationwide. Warner Brothers Discovery recommending shareholders reject Paramount Skydance's hostile bid for the company. The latest bid saying its existing deal with Netflix is. We had about 7.1 million open jobs in the month of November, and that was down from October, according to the latest report from the Labor Department released today, and the rate of job openings declined to 4.3% from 4.5% a month earlier. Motac Money continues here, 790 KBC. Extended coverage now on the tough and painful anniversary being observed today in the Los Angeles area, the one-year anniversary of the devastating wind and firestorm, which destroyed homes and businesses in the Palisades, Malibu, and Altadena. We heard from Rick Caruso just a few moments ago, and joining us live now is Jerry Sullivan, who is the national managing editor of The Real Deal, commercial real estate news source at therealdeal.com, which keeps close track of what's been happening with the recovery efforts. Jerry, thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Frank. Good to be with you as always.
Wonderful to have you with us. Take it from the top. I know you've done extensive coverage here at therealdeal.com, and give us an update and your thoughts here on the one-year anniversary of the devastating and deadly firestorm and the ongoing recovery.
Yes, in fact, our reporter, Carrie Hamanaka, in our monthly magazine has a story specific about looking at the recovery at the one-year mark. There seems to be two clocks running on this. I know there's a lot of impatience in a lot of quarters, and I think, rightly so. And then if you look, there is some flow of permitting anyway, not quite the flow of actual, completed projects that people could move into. That's a trickle. 3,600 permits issued for rebuilding and fire areas affected by the fire. So primarily Palisades, Altadena, Malibu, and a few other scattered areas. So 3,600, I think it's instructive that the Altadena side, which is Los Angeles County, not Los Angeles City, and has a different regulatory regimen, therefore, is about triple the number in the Palisades. They're at around 1,400, and the Palisades is around a little over 5, so nearly triple the total, and that could have to do with a lot of things, the value of the land and insurance situations, but also I think the regulatory protocols and whatever adjustments localities might be making probably also is a factor there.
On the live with Jerry Sullivan, National Managing Editor for The Real Deal. And as far as these properties are concerned, we see the brothers from New Zealand acquiring some of these properties. Anything else stand out to you on how this rebuilding and this recovery is going to go? Is there any kind of a master plan or anything that people can look at, or is it all ad hoc at this point?
Well, I would say, ad hoc or case by case primarily. It's an interesting situation in Southern California, Frank, because, Southern California, as it boomed over the years, and to some degree still does, when it grows, these huge tracts of homes are put in and they become subdivisions and everything else. And there's a certain commonality to all that, the suburban look and feel. Here you have these, all of a sudden, what became two huge tracts of land, right? Not, unfortunately because of these raging fires. But there was still individual ownership, of thousands of plots. So it wasn't a master developer who came in, prepared it and then started selling off lots. So it's a different situation. The brothers from New Zealand, I think the name is Mowbray. Forgive me if I'm mistaken, but they bought several adjacent lots, and they have some ideas about using it as maybe showcases for construction methods and things of that nature. So, it's nowhere near that sort of massive approach, and I don't think we're seeing that really.
Mm-hmm. And then there was the lottery winner who's active in Altadena. So all kinds of interesting situations here where individuals and in some cases groups are trying to facilitate this rebuilding. The New Zealand brothers using prefab homes coming in from China, from what I understand. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And in the meantime, any other thoughts here on how the values are looking at this point with the various lots? I understand going at a discount now, given the slow pace of the recovery. Anything else that stands out to you?
Well, they're running about how you might expect. For example, just take a look at the most expensive lots to sell in each of the core areas. The most expensive was a lot in Malibu that was right on PCH, $14 million. You probably could have guessed that. Palisades, the most expensive one, was $9.4 million. Altadena was $2.1 million, and Altadena is just more of a middle class, upper middle class Southern California community. Malibu, of course, has that very high end, and Palisades certainly high end. So those are running about where you would expect, but you have to consider it as in Southern California, LA. We tend to think about what the house sold. This is the land sold. This is the lot sold. The parcel, the possibility sold. So how I think if we start to see prices drop dramatically, it might have to do with permitting processes and frustration over that. But I still think it's wait and see.
As far as commercial real estate overall, you reported to us, and I think we were right on target late last year, that it appeared commercial real estate was bottoming out. Is that indeed the case here now in the Los Angeles area?
Yeah, it's interesting, Frank. I think, downtown is still at bottom and bumping along, and I haven't seen anything to really indicate that there's any sort of upturn on the immediate horizon. You and I have talked about Century City being a bright spot, and it certainly is a very vibrant office market. We just, Elena Botros, our commercial reporter, did a piece today or the day before about sale in El Segundo. Office complex in El Segundo went for about $400 a square foot, a little more than $400 per square foot. Well, that's more than twice the price of what Class A high-rise office is getting in downtown LA. So it may be, El Segundo over by LAX and has that aerospace corridor. It may be that they're joining Century City as a vibrant hotspot, and we'll start to see those, fill in the canvas, the broader Southern California canvas. But in the meantime, I still don't see too much indicating any sort of upturn on the horizon for downtown.
Very interesting. There are a few places in the world, really, where office towers are being built. One such place, however, is Century City, and they sort of like a mini downtown on the west side of Los Angeles with an office tower about to open. And I understand occupancy there is nearly already 100%.
Yeah, and I think, it's fair at this point to consider Century City the new downtown in terms of the office market. It just is. It's become vibrant. It's got that sort of downtown feel and that downtown tenant base. And downtown Los Angeles, meanwhile, is, one landlord alone is in the financial district of downtown LA, Brookfield, has an enormous amount of distressed property on the market. And, it seems to be, I think those distressed properties account for like 20% of the inventory of Class A office space in downtown LA. So, there's a lot to work out there. And in the meantime, Century City and now we're seeing El Segundo are just sort of pedaling along. And, it's tough to make up those divisions once you fall behind like that.
Jerry, you're a prince for taking the call today and going through the whole works here. In addition to being the national managing editor of the Real Deal commercial real estate news source, you've expanded your titles. Congratulations on the birth of your baby today.
I appreciate it very, very much. I'm now also the proud husband of Ji-Yoon Yu and proud father of Jeremiah Eugene Sullivan, and I appreciate you acknowledging that, Frank. Thank you very much.
We love you, Jerry, and all the best to you and your family, and congratulations on that very blessed news today. And thank you very much for joining us live here.
Most people don't realize how much of their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, and even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it together at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/secure. Protect yourself now at aura.com/secure.
The UCLA women's basketball season is one you don't want to miss. Your top 10 Bruins are well on their way to another Final Four run. We need you to get to Pauly to support this incredible team. Led by Lauren Betts, Gabriela Jaquez, and Kiki Rice, newcomers Gianna Neepkins and Charlize Ledger-Walker. This group plays an exciting brand of basketball and wins. The time is now to come to see these stars in action. Big-time matchups are coming. Go to UCLABruins.com/tickets to secure your seats today. Can't wait to see you in Westwood cheering on the Bruins.
Get ready for The Rush with Max Crosby.
It's time.
Your all-access pass into the heart of the NFL.
This is the National Football League, and they don't play around. You got to be smart.
All-pro defensive end Max Crosby takes you beyond the field with exclusive insights.
I could say this because I've played them.
This is The Rush.
You guys already know what time it is. It was fire, and we'll be right back on the pod, and we'll be talking about it next week.
The Rush with Max Crosby. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Motaca Money continues. 790 KABC, continuing extended coverage of the one-year anniversary of the devastating firestorm which destroyed homes and businesses in the Palisades, Malibu, and Altadena. We heard earlier from Rick Caruso and just a moment ago from Jerry Sullivan from the Real Deal commercial real estate source. And joining us live now, another giant on the local business scene, and that is Mark Wilbur, chairman of Employers Group, founding member and former chairman of the Los Angeles Business Federation, LA BizFed, and former associate dean of the USC Marshall School of Business. Mark Wilbur, thank you very much for coming to the line here this afternoon.
Thanks so much, Frank. Great to be on.
Great to have you with us here. Give us your thoughts here. Of course, you've been very much on the front line of the recovery effort from a business standpoint. Give us your thoughts here on this one-year anniversary of the fires.
It's funny. I look back on this, Frank, and we watched the devastation last year, and everybody was all fired up about rebuilding and all this kind of stuff. And the problem with disasters is that they tend to be localized in certain areas. And so the rest of Los Angeles that isn't impacted by that, it starts to slip down the list of things that people are focusing on, which is not what you want. So we need to find better ways, I think, to getting this to the top of the inbox. It's kind of shocking how little has been done. I guess you probably can never say nothing because at least they cleaned off the lots, but you would think that we would have some kind of plan, that there'd be things moving forward, even if it's master plan discussions or things like that. So we have some of the greatest developers, real estate developers on the planet in Los Angeles. And, it's like we've made no progress, and there doesn't seem to be any movement on the political side, because the problem is they hold the permitting permissions. And if you don't get the permitting permissions, it doesn't matter how good a developer you aren't going anywhere. And that's the frustrating part right now, is that, we have all these lots that aren't getting built on and aren't getting redeveloped. People aren't able to rebuild their homes because they can't get things approved. There was all this talk to have it done, and it's not getting done.
Very, very heartbreaking. As we heard from Jerry Sullivan a moment ago, looks like the L.A. County area of Altadena already has many more permits approved than the city of L.A. is approved in the Palisades.
Yeah.
So somehow L.A. County is doing a better job than L.A. City as far as cutting red tape. You've heard all of the frustration out there, and among the movers and shakers you talked to, what is it going to take to turn this around?
Well, it takes political momentum. There's two things that have to happen there. One, there has to be enough pain at City Hall, specifically for the Palisades area, to get their attention on it. For whatever reason, I don't know if they're just trying to outlast the homeowners or what have you for their own political means, but there needs to be enough political bent and pressure on City Hall to get that to change. There's nothing like elections that come up that can turn things around. But again, it's only in those areas where people get affected. And so, if you're sitting in Long Beach, you're not really affected by any of these things. And that's unfortunate because, you're not there for the political pressure. You're not going to get people from Long Beach protesting for the Palisades, even though I wish they all would, because it's, like I said, it's pretty tragic what's going on.
Tell us about the business recovery. I know BizFed certainly, and the Chamber and LAEDC, all of them have initiatives to try to help businesses. What about getting those businesses rebuilt in the devastated areas?
Well, it's interesting. It's kind of a catch-22, right, Frank? If you can't build a house and you can't get people walking the streets and driving cars in the neighborhoods again, there's no real reason to build the restaurant because there's nobody to go to it. The localized businesses, would have to be kind of shored up and held up, in order to be able to do that. It takes customers to keep a business afloat, right? It doesn't really matter what the business is. You need people coming in through the front door to work with you or buy from you or have a meal. And if there aren't any, capabilities of people living in the area, you're going to be then stretched. Imagine you're building a restaurant. Now you're going to have to market to outside neighborhood areas to come in to a devastated area to have a meal. So there are some business process issues there that have to get resolved in order to be able to make it worthwhile for a business to put their shutters up and open their door.
Yeah. And then insurance issues, of course, have been a big part of all of this. I'm sure you've heard a lot of the nightmare stories related to not only the homes, but also businesses. Is that getting any better?
On the insurance front, it's just a bit of a nightmare right now. I don't have really much of an update there because I haven't seen much of a change there. It's been, every step of the way, it's more costly because, there's been a lot of loss. And so the insurance people want to, recoup some of those dollars over time. And it's problematic right now. You get a lot of things working against people trying to rebuild. At some point, somebody's going to decide this is ridiculous and we need to actually make change. But there just is not the political capital being spent to make this happen. There isn't people that are really, I'm sorry, but our mayor, Karen Bass, I wish she would become more galvanized to get this done. But it's just not happening.
Mark Wilbur, chairman of Employers Group, founding member and former chairman of the Los Angeles Business Federation, LA BizFed, and former associate dean of the USC Marshall School of Business. Mark, always great to have you with us. Thank you very much for joining us live here this afternoon.
Thanks so much, Frank. Next time, let's have a positive discussion. I feel so sad that I left everybody on a tough note.
It's a tough day of remembrance, and thank you very much for that honest assessment as always, Mark Wilbur. We do appreciate it, and thank you very much for joining us live here. Stay tuned now for the 790 KBC News Blitz with Randy Wang. I'll be back with more at 4 tomorrow right here, 790 KBC.
The UCLA women's basketball season is one you don't want to miss. Your top 10 Bruins are well on their way to another Final Four run. We need you to get to Pauly to support this incredible team. Led by Lauren Betts, Gabriella Jaquez, and Kiki Rice, newcomers Gianna Neepkins and Charlize Ledger-Walker. This group plays an exciting brand of basketball and wins. The time is now to come to see these stars in action. Big-time matchups are coming. Go to UCLABruins.com/tickets to secure your seats today. Can't wait to see you in Westwood cheering on the Bruins.